25 years ago today, the episode Mad as a Hatter aired for Batman the Animated Series, October 12th, 1992. Hello friends, I'm Andy Knode, and welcome to the show where we talk about Batman the Animated Series episode by episode on the 25th anniversary of their original air date. And if you love Batman, and especially Batman the Animated Series, then I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel because we have a lot of episodes to review and I don't want you to miss a single one.
Oh dear, such table manners.
Today we're talking about Mad as a Hatter, which of course is the first appearance of the Mad Hatter. Because he's mad as a hatter.
Jervis?
This is quite a different episode than what we're accustomed to seeing. And there's some great highlights to this episode, and there's some great lows in this episode, to be honest. But it's a very different story than I think we've seen up to this point. And I'll explain that right after we take a look at the 45-second Joker bomb, and I'll give you the quick rundown of the episode. Jarvis Tetch works in development, in research and development, with a company that is funded by, of course, Bruce Wayne. When Bruce Wayne comes to see him about a mind control device that he has, he doesn't have everything ready, but we find out that he is in love with Alice, who also works in the office, but she has a boyfriend. She breaks up with her boyfriend, and now's his chance to make his move, and he uses his mind control cards to be able to impress her with being a man about town as they go on their first date. But then she gets back together with her boyfriend, and he gets very upset, and he decides to kidnap her and put the mind control device on her so that he can woo her over. But Batman sees this as a problem and goes and stops him in Wonderland with this big vicious duo.
Cheer up. Mr. Wayne knows what you mean to the company.
So before I get to talking about how this story structure is a little bit different in this episode, I want to talk about a couple of notable elements in this. One, the most obvious one, is that the character of the Mad Hatter is voiced by the one and only Roddy McDowall.
I think you're the only one who understands me.
I believe that this is the first time that I saw an episode where I was aware of the voice acting as a kid, mainly because at this point in my life, my dad had shown me most of the Planet of the Apes episodes. So I was familiar with just that he has a very distinctive voice. So I was familiar with his character in Planet of the Apes and recognized his voice in this. But as I got older, I further learned that Roddy McDowall also played a villain, the Bookworm, in the 1960s Batman.
Dear me, what feeble memories you have.
Now, I don't know why they didn't bring back the Bookworm for the animated series and have him do the voice for that. I thought that would be a great tie-in. But Mad Hatter is a great fit for him.
Tomorrow and every day afterward.
And I believe, I could be wrong, but he may be the only person other than Adam West from the original 60s series that also voiced a character in the animated series. I could be wrong on that, and if you know of another example of that, let me know.
I'm sorry you had to see that, but they had to be taught a lesson.
And I say that the story is different than what we've seen in the past because the Mad Hatter is really the central focus of this episode. And you go, oh, but Andy, we've seen episodes like that before where the villain is much of a featured character in the episode more than Batman. But I say that because he is sort of a good guy. He's the first time I've made many mentions of villains like Scarecrow that had these weak motives of just, I'm going to go do bad stuff and nobody can stop me. But now we have the Mad Hatter, who is actually not doing anything wrong. He's motivated by being in love with Alice, and he's motivated by wanting to win her over. There's nothing wrong with those. Now, of course, you could go, well, he's mind controlling people, so there's some moral issues against that. But his motive in all of this isn't revenge. It isn't to get money. It isn't to get back at the people that, well, that's revenge. It's not these malicious things. It's just that is just the effect of him being in love with her.
Do you remember the Mock Turtle song? Will you, won't you, will you, won't you join the dance?
And it's really a tragic story because he's kind of the victim in this whole plot. And you also will go, oh, but Andy, remember Heart of Ice where Mr. Freeze was the victim. But even in that, whereas he is the victim, that it wasn't his fault that his wife was frozen or killed. It was Mark Hamill's fault, truthfully, or the character that Mark Hamill played. He then took that moment and decided, oh, I'm going to get back at the guys that did this. And so that's a revenge, and that's a malicious thing. Jarvis Tetch, as he becomes the Mad Hatter, isn't doing that. He's simply trying to win over Alice. And in fact, when we first established the relationship between Jarvis Tetch, I'm going to call him Jarvis and Alice, she has a boyfriend, and he even backs off.
She's got a boyfriend after all. Better to withdraw like a gentleman, forget her. Turn my heart to other pursuits.
It's only once she breaks up that he goes, okay, I'm going to win her over. And initially, he doesn't do anything wrong. He just takes her out on a date.
Monsieur Tetch, I have created a gastronomical delight for you, all on the House of Goss.
And he gets a free meal because so it's just these like little crimes. Again, it's not exactly right. And for those of you that have mind control devices, I'm not encouraging you to use that to woo your significant other. But in the context of this, he wasn't really doing anything wrong. It was only that then she gets back with her boyfriend that night, mind you. So if you really want to dig into the relationship here, I think that Alice was kind of leading him on. She went out on this date. There was a romantic dinner. There was a carriage ride. There was, there was no sense of, oh, this is just being friends. And then she gets back together with her boyfriend. So
I guess I'm lucky to have two such amazing men in my life. See you after lunch.
maybe she's the real villain of it. No, she's not the villain. But the point is that so far he still hasn't done anything wrong. With the exception of telling the guys to jump off a bridge.
Why don't you do something useful, like, go jump in the river?
Okay.
And then Batman's now involved because he saved the people that were ready to jump off a bridge. And now he's involved to stop Jarvis from going too far. But initially, he's really just trying to get a girlfriend. And that's a different structure because you really feel, more so than even Mr. Freeze, because you're looking at him going, boy, he really got dealt a crummy hand. And now he's going about it all wrong. But through most of the episode, you're looking at Jarvis and you really feel sorry for him.
Oh, believe me, I didn't want it this way.
And still, I don't know if he necessarily committed any crime, because every crime that he could have committed, again, I don't want to excuse the mind control thing. That's bad. Mind control is bad. Other than that, there wasn't like he didn't go rob a bank. So in that, he's sort of he's the victim of this whole story.
No, I don't like this game. Let's play another.
So he's working for Bruce Wayne, or his company is funded by Bruce Wayne, and he's working on this mind control device. And then Bruce Wayne and Jarvis's boss comes in to see the progress of his work.
Hello.
Of course. I read your proposal on using microchips to enhance the brain's potential. Sounds intriguing.
That scene felt strangely familiar.
So, Mr. Nigma, what's on your mind?
Precisely. What's on all our minds? Brainwaves.
So when it came time to rank this episode, it does fall below the middle point of the list. It's not a standout episode. I don't think that the Mad Hatter is a standout villain. And particularly because all the things that I described, he's not like the Joker, for example, that's deliberately trying to cause harm. He's an accidental villain, really. You don't really get to see that really strong good versus evil, bad guy versus good guy kind of dynamic. It's just sort of Batman got in the way. For that reason, it just kind of fell lower in the list, not all the way at the bottom, but at the number 16 slot. He is a better villain than the Scarecrow at the bottom of the list, and then some of those other episodes that don't really feature a villain at all. So he kind of bumps up there because he adds a little something in that sense, but nothing better than the Joker episodes that's sitting right on top of him.
Oh, fabulous day, Callooh, Calais!
So do you agree with me that this wouldn't have been a story at all if Batman hadn't gotten involved? And are there other episodes that you can think of like that, or storylines where the story's playing out and Batman sort of just gets in the way?
Are you, the famous Batman, so intent upon destroying my happiness that you'll harm these poor, mind-warped innocents to get me?
So if you enjoyed this episode, please give it a like, and feel free to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more episodes like this. Now, we'll be back on Saturday, October 14th, with the Cape and Cowl Conspiracy. As always, I'm Andy Knode, and I will see you on Saturday.